I'm sitting here with a glass of cheap red wine, staring at the wall where our wedding photo used to hang. My best friend Riley is probably sick of hearing me ramble about how I screwed everything up. I'm Mariah, and I used to think I had it all: a loving husband, a cozy home, a life that felt like it could last forever. Julian was my rock, the guy who made me believe in love again after my heart got stomped on. But I fucked it up. I let my past creep in, let it poison everything, and now I'm here picking up the pieces of a life I broke myself. This isn't me asking for pity, it's me owning my mistakes, spitting out the truth with all the bitterness I feel. So, let me take you back to the start, to when I met Julian and thought I'd finally gotten it right. It was Janelle's party, one of those crowded, loud nights where I felt like I didn't belong. I'd just broken up with Tobias a few months before, and my head was a mess. I stood in the corner, clutching a warm beer, trying to blend into the wallpaper. Tobias had left me raw, like an open wound that wouldn't close. Every laugh, every clink of glasses made me want to bolt. I was done with people, done with feeling like I had to perform. All I wanted was to go home, curl up with a book, and forget the world existed. Then Julian showed up. I didn't notice him at first, just some guy in a flannel shirt weaving through the crowd. But then he was next to me, holding a plate of wings and grinning like he'd just won the lottery. "You think the dip's supposed to taste like regret?" he said, nodding at the sad bowl of ranch on the table. I snorted, caught off guard, and for the first time that night, I didn't feel like I was drowning. His dumb joke cut through the noise in my head, and I laughed. Really laughed, not the fake chuckle I'd been faking for weeks. We started talking, and it was easy, like slipping into an old pair of jeans. He told me about his job hosting a late-night radio show, how he loved spinning old jazz records and reading listener letters on air. I told him about my obsession with books, how I'd spend hours in used bookstores, hunting for first editions. The party faded away, and it was just us, standing by that shitty dip, trading stories like we'd known each other forever. His eyes crinkled when he smiled, and I caught myself thinking, this guy's different. Not like Tobias, with his brooding intensity and constant need for drama. Julian was warm, steady, like a campfire on a cold night. That night, I went home with his number scribbled on a napkin, my heart doing this stupid, fluttery thing I hadn't felt in years. I couldn't stop thinking about him, his laugh, the way he listened like he actually gave a damn. We started texting, then calling, and soon we were spending every spare moment together. I remember one night, walking through the city after dinner, when a chill hit the air. I was shivering in my thin jacket, too stubborn to say anything, and Julian just peeled off his coat and draped it over my shoulders. "Can't have you freezing on me," he said, his voice soft. I looked at him, his breath fogging in the streetlight, and I thought, I could love this man. Hell, I did love him. It snuck up on me, quiet and real, like it didn't need to prove itself. Those early days were golden, the kind you don't appreciate until they're gone. We'd spend weekends cooking terrible pancakes, laughing when they turned out more like hockey pucks. He'd play his jazz records, and I'd read on the couch, our legs tangled together. It felt like we were building something, something solid. Julian wasn't perfect. He'd leave dishes in the sink and forget to call when he was running late. But he was good. He'd leave me little notes on the fridge, stupid stuff like, "Don't eat my leftovers, thief," with a winky face. I'd roll my eyes, but I kept every one of those notes, tucked in a drawer like they were treasures. Looking back, I hate how I took it for granted. I thought I'd moved on from Tobias, that I'd buried all that baggage deep enough to never see it again. But I was kidding myself. Somewhere in the back of my mind, he was still there, like a ghost I couldn't shake. I'd catch myself comparing Julian to him just for a second. Tobias's wild energy, the way he'd make my heart race. Julian was calmer, steadier, and I told myself that was better. But there was this tiny part of me, this stupid, reckless part that missed the chaos. I didn't admit it, not even to myself. I just shoved it down, smiled at Julian, and pretended everything was fine. I wish I'd seen it then, how fragile it all was. Those days with Julian were the best I'd ever had, but I didn't cherish them like I should have. I let myself believe I was over my past, that I was whole enough to deserve him. But I wasn't. I was carrying around this broken piece of me, and it was only a matter of time before it cut us both. Sitting here now, with this wine turning sour in my mouth, I can't help but curse myself. I had everything: a man who loved me, a life that felt like home, and I didn't even see it until I'd started to ruin it. God, what a fool I was. I'm back with another glass of wine, the bottle half empty now, and Riley's probably rolling her eyes from across town. I can still see her face when I told her how I fucked things up with Julian. That mix of pity and, "I told you so." I don't blame her. I'm Mariah, the idiot who had a perfect life and let it slip through her fingers because she couldn't let go of a ghost. Sitting here, staring at the empty space where our old record player used to be, I keep replaying those years with Julian. The marriage, the cracks, the way I betrayed him bit by bit. It's like watching a car crash in slow motion, knowing you're the one who floored the gas. When Julian proposed, it was nothing like the movies. No grand gesture, no violins. We were in our tiny apartment kitchen, flour dusting the counter from a failed attempt at homemade pizza. He was laughing, his hands sticky with dough, when he pulled out a ring, a simple silver band, nothing flashy. "Marry me, Mariah," he said, his voice steady but his eyes nervous, like he thought I might say no. I didn't. I burst into tears, threw my arms around him, and said yes before he could even finish. I felt like the luckiest woman alive, like I'd stumbled into a life I didn't deserve. That night, we danced in the kitchen to some old Ella Fitzgerald record, flour still on our clothes, and I thought, this is it. This is home. The first year of marriage was like a dream I didn't want to wake up from. We'd wake up tangled in each other's arms, sunlight sneaking through the blinds. Julian would make coffee, humming some tune from his radio show, and I'd steal sips from his mug just to mess with him. We had this shared playlist, a mix of his jazz and my indie rock, and we'd play it on lazy Sundays, sprawled on the couch with books and takeout. I'd catch him looking at me sometimes, this quiet smile on his face, and my heart would do this little flip. I called it our nest, that little world we built together. But looking back, I see it for what it was: a fragile shell I'd eventually shatter. The trouble started small, so small I didn't even notice at first. We'd be out with friends and someone would mention Tobias, usually some clueless mutual friend who didn't know our history. "Hey, whatever happened to that guy you dated?" they'd ask, and I'd freeze, my stomach twisting. Julian would laugh it off, make some joke, but I'd catch the flicker in his eyes like he was waiting for me to say something. "It's nothing," I'd mutter, forcing a smile. But it wasn't nothing. Every mention of Tobias was like a pebble in my shoe, a tiny irritation I couldn't ignore. I'd tell myself I was over him, that he was just a bad memory. But deep down, I knew I was lying. It got worse when I started creeping on Tobias's Instagram. It was late one night, Julian asleep next to me, the glow of my phone lighting up the dark. I don't know what possessed me. Maybe too much wine, maybe just stupidity. I typed his name, and there he was, still handsome in that reckless way, posting about his new life, his new girlfriend. My chest tightened, not with love, but with something uglier, jealousy maybe, or regret. I scrolled through his photos, each one a reminder of the girl I used to be, the one who thrived on his chaos. I told myself it was harmless, just curiosity. But then I sent him a message. Just a, "Hey, how's it going?" Nothing crazy, right? Except it was. It was the first crack in the foundation I'd built with Julian. Those messages became a habit. After a fight with Julian, stupid stuff, like whose turn it was to do dishes, I'd pour a glass of wine and text Tobias. He'd reply, all charm and nostalgia, and for a few minutes, I'd feel like that wild, carefree girl again. It was like scratching an itch I didn't know I had. I'd tell myself it didn't mean anything, that I wasn't cheating. But I knew better. Every time I hid my phone from Julian, every time I deleted a message, I was chipping away at what we had. I was betraying him, not with my body, but with my heart, and that was worse. I hate myself for it now. I'd look at Julian, see the way he'd still kiss my forehead before work, and think, what the hell am I doing? He was so good to me, patient, kind, the kind of man who'd stay up late helping me organize my bookshelves. And what did I do? I chased a cheap thrill, a shadow of a man who never cared about me the way Julian did. I'd lie in bed next to him, my phone burning a hole in my pocket, and wonder why I was so damn stupid. Why couldn't I just let Tobias go? Why was I risking everything for a feeling that wasn't even real? The distance between us grew, subtle but undeniable. Julian started noticing. How could he not? I'd snap at him over nothing, or I'd zone out when he was talking. He'd ask, "You okay, babe?" And I'd nod, mumble something about being tired. But I wasn't tired. I was guilty, and it was eating me alive. I'd see the hurt in his eyes, the way he'd hesitate before touching me, and I'd hate myself even more. "You've got everything," I'd tell myself. "A man who loves you, a life most people would kill for. Why are you screwing it up?" But I couldn't stop. It was like I was addicted to my own destruction, and Julian was the one paying the price. Now, sitting here with this wine and these memories, I want to scream at that version of myself. I had it all, and I was too busy chasing a ghost to see it. Julian deserved better, and I knew it. But I kept digging my own grave, one message at a time, until the ground gave way beneath us. God, what a mess I made. Here I am again, wine glass in hand, the bottle almost gone now. Riley would probably snatch it from me if she were here, telling me to stop drowning in self-pity. But I can't help it. I'm Mariah, the woman who took a sledgehammer to her own life, and this is the part where it all came crashing down Sunday. I keep replaying that night, the night I shattered Julian's heart, the night I realized what a fool I'd been. It's like a wound I can't stop picking at, every detail sharp and raw. I don't want your sympathy, just your ear, so you can hear how I let my past ruin everything and maybe learn something from my stupidity. It started with a phone call, one that hit me like a punch to the gut. I was in the living room, scrolling through my phone, Julian flipping through a magazine on the couch. The screen lit up with Riley's name, and when I answered, her voice was tight, urgent. "Mariah, Tobias was in a car accident. He's in the hospital." My heart stopped. I don't know why it hit me so hard. Tobias wasn't mine anymore, hadn't been for years. But hearing his name, picturing him hurt, maybe dying, sent my head spinning. Memories flooded back. His laugh, his reckless driving, the way he'd make me feel alive and terrified all at once. I stood there, frozen, my phone trembling in my hand. "Mariah?" Julian's voice snapped me out of it. He was looking at me, brow furrowed, magazine forgotten. "What's wrong?" I could barely get the words out. "Tobias, he's hurt, bad. I need to go to the hospital." The words sounded wrong, even as I said them, like they belonged to someone else. Julian's face shifted, a mix of confusion and something darker, but he didn't argue. "Okay," he said, grabbing his keys. "I'll drive." I should have stopped right there, told him I'd stay, that it didn't matter, but I didn't. I let the panic take over, let it drag me back to a man who'd never deserved me. The car ride was a blur, the city lights streaking past like smears of paint. I was shaking, my mind a mess of guilt and fear. Why did I care so much? Tobias was nothing to me now, just a shadow I'd been stupid enough to chase. But in that moment, all I could think about was the past. Those wild nights, the way he'd made my heart race. I was so lost in it that I didn't notice Julian's knuckles whitening on the steering wheel. Didn't see the storm brewing in his silence. And then, like an idiot, I opened my mouth and ruined everything. "M van Yuanai," I blurted out. The words spilled out before I could stop them, raw and reckless. I don't even know why I said it. Maybe it was the fear, maybe it was the wine I'd had earlier, maybe it was just the truth I'd been dodging for too long. But the second they hit the air, I knew I'd fucked up. Julian's jaw tightened, his hands gripping the wheel so hard, I thought it might snap. He didn't say a word, just kept driving, but the silence was deafening. I wanted to take it back, to scream that I didn't mean it, but the damage was done. I'd just told my husband I loved another man, and there was no undoing it. We got to the hospital, and I couldn't even bring myself to go inside. I stood in the hallway, the fluorescent lights buzzing above me, and I started to cry. Not for Tobias, not really. For me. for Julian, for the life I'd just set on fire. I didn't love Tobias. I knew that as I stood there, my shoes squeaking on the linoleum. What I loved was the version of myself I'd been with him, the fearless, reckless girl who didn't know what it meant to lose something real. But that girl was gone, and I'd hurt the one person who'd loved me for who I was now. Julian stood a few feet away, his back to me, and I could feel the distance between us growing, a chasm I'd carved with my own hands. I kept thinking, why did I do this? Why did I let him get to me? Tobias wasn't worth it. He'd never been worth it. But I'd let him crawl back into my head, let him poison the life I'd built with Julian. I hated myself for it, for being so weak, so selfish. Julian didn't deserve this. He'd been nothing but good, making me coffee, leaving me notes, loving me even when I was a mess. And I'd repaid him by dragging us both into this nightmare. I wanted to scream, to claw the words back from the air, but they were out there, sharp and unforgiving. Standing in that hospital hallway, I felt like I was drowning. I kept picturing Julian's face, the way he'd looked at me in the car, like I'd stabbed him and he was still trying to understand why. I didn't go into Tobias's room. I couldn't. It wasn't about him anymore. It was about me, about the truth I'd been running from. I'd been chasing a ghost. And in doing so, I'd lost the only thing that mattered. I wiped my tears, my hands shaking, and thought, you idiot. You had everything, and you threw it away. I cursed myself over and over for letting my past destroy my present, for hurting Julian, the man who'd given me everything, just because I couldn't let go of a man who'd given me nothing. Now, with this wine turning bitter in my mouth, I can still feel that moment. The weight of what I'd done, the realization that I'd broken something I might never fix. I keep asking myself how I could be so stupid, how I could let a few careless words ruin it all. Julian's silence in that car, his back turned in the hospital, they haunt me. I did this. I broke us. And no amount of tears or wine can change that. God, what a fucking mess. I'm down to the last dregs of this wine. The bottle staring at me like it knows all my sins. Riley's probably asleep by now, no one left to hear me curse myself out. I'm Mariah, the woman who torched her own life and is now sifting through the ashes. That night at the hospital was the breaking point, but what came after was worse. The slow, ugly unraveling of everything I'd taken for granted. I keep seeing Julian's face, the way he looked at me like I was a stranger, and it cuts deeper than anything. This isn't about me begging for forgiveness. It's about owning the mess I made, spitting out the truth with all the venom I feel for myself. So, here's what happened when the dust settled, when I realized just how much I'd lost. When we got home from the hospital, the silence between us was suffocating. Julian didn't say a word, just went straight to the bedroom and shut the door. I stood in the living room, still in my coat, feeling like the walls were closing in. The next morning, I found a note on the kitchen counter, his handwriting neat and cold. Gio anta koda koem. My heart dropped. I read it again, hoping I'd misread, but there it was. Julian's goodbye, sharp and final. I called him, texted, left voicemails that sounded more like sobs than words. Nothing. He was gone, staying with a friend maybe, or at some motel. I didn't know. All I knew was that I'd pushed him away and he wasn't coming back. I tried to hold it together, but I was a wreck. I'd walk into our bedroom, see his side of the bed untouched, and it'd hit me all over again. I kept replaying that moment in the car, those stupid words I'd let slip. Em van Yuan I. Why the hell did I say that? I didn't love Tobias, not really. I was just caught up in some fucked up nostalgia, chasing a feeling that never even existed. But Julian didn't know that. All he heard was his wife choosing another man, and I couldn't blame him for walking away. I'd have done the same if I were him. Riley came over a few days later, her face a mix of anger and worry. She didn't hold back. You broke a good man, Mariah, she said, her voice cutting like a knife. Julian loved you so much, and you just threw it away. She told me how he'd talk about me, how he'd light up when he said my name, how he'd planned to surprise me with a trip for our anniversary. I sat there, tears streaming down my face, feeling like the worst person alive. I didn't mean to, I whispered, but Riley just shook her head. Doesn't matter what you meant. You did it. She was right, and I hated her for it, hated myself more. I kept calling Julian, leaving messages that went unanswered, like yelling into a void. I wanted to fix it, to make him see I didn't mean it, but deep down, I knew words wouldn't cut it. Our apartment felt like a tomb. I'd wander through it, touching things that used to mean something. Our wedding photo, the mug he always used, the playlist we'd made together. I'd sit on the couch, staring at the wall, thinking, you had it all, Mariah. A man who loved you, a home, a life. And you fucked it up for what? A memory. I was so angry at myself, I wanted to scream, to break something, but all I could do was cry. I'd look at our old photos, see Julian smile, and it was like a knife twisting in my chest. I kept thinking, he didn't deserve this. He was good, and I ruined him. I'd curse myself under my breath, calling myself every name in the book. Stupid, selfish, reckless. I tried to reach out to Julian again and again, but it was like he'd vanished. I'd drive by his radio station, hoping to catch a glimpse of him, but he wasn't there. I'd check my phone 100 times a day, praying for a text, a call, anything. Nothing. I even went to his friend's place, banging on the door like a lunatic, but no one answered. I was desperate, pathetic, and I knew it. I kept thinking, if I could just explain, if I could just make him see. But what was there to see? I'd betrayed him, not just with Tobias, but with every lie, every secret message, every moment I chose my past over him. The guilt was a weight I couldn't shake. I'd lie awake at night, replaying every mistake, every time I'd snapped at him or hid my phone. I'd think about the mornings he'd made me coffee, the nights he'd held me when I was falling apart, and I'd hate myself for taking it for granted. You had everything, I'd whisper to the dark, and you let it slip away. I wanted to blame Tobias, to blame the accident, to blame anything but myself, but I couldn't. This was on me. I'd let my obsession with a man who never cared about me destroy the one who did. I'd chosen wrong, and now I was paying the price. Sitting here now, the wine gone sour, I can still feel that emptiness, that ache of knowing I'd lost him. I keep seeing that note, those words in his handwriting, like a scar I'll never heal. I broke us, and no amount of apologies could fix it. I'd give anything to go back, to shut my mouth in that car, to delete every message I sent Tobias. But I can't. All I can do is live with it, with the knowledge that I had a good man and I pushed him away. God, I was such a fucking idiot. The wine's gone, the bottle empty, just like this apartment feels without Julian. Riley's probably dreaming by now, unaware I'm still here, picking at the wreckage of my life. I'm Mariah, the woman who burned her own world down and is trying, somehow, to build something new from the ashes. This is the end of my story, not a happy ending, not really, but a place where I've stopped running from myself. I'm not asking for your tears or your forgiveness. I'm just laying it all bare, bitter and raw, so you can see what happens when you let your past call the shots. Here's how I tried to make peace with what I'd done, and what I learned when the dust finally settled. After Julian left, I was a ghost in my own life. The apartment was too quiet, every corner a reminder of him. His records, his coffee mug, the empty space where his laugh used to be. I couldn't keep living like that, drowning in guilt. So I did something I'd been avoiding for years. I started therapy. I sat across from a woman with kind eyes and a notepad, spilling my guts about Tobias, Julian, and the mess I'd made. It was hard peeling back the layers of my own bullshit, but I needed to understand why I'd let a dead-end past ruin something real. I wrote Julian a letter too, not because I thought he'd read it, but because I needed to say the truth out loud, even if it was just to myself. The letter took days to write. I'd sit at the kitchen table, pen in hand, staring at a blank page until my eyes burned. Dear Julian, I started, over and over, crumpling each draft when the words felt wrong. Finally, I got it out. I told him I was sorry, not just for what I said in the car, but for everything, for the lies, the secrets, the way I'd taken him for granted. I admitted that Tobias was never the love I thought he was, just a crutch I leaned on when I was too scared to face how much I loved Julian. You were too good for me, I wrote, and I wasn't brave enough to deserve it. I didn't expect forgiveness. I just needed him to know I saw my mistakes, that I wasn't the same idiot who'd hurt him. I mailed it to his friend's address, my hands shaking as I dropped it in the box. I don't know if he ever read it. I hope he did, but I'll never know. Therapy helped me see things clearer. I'd always thought my problem was Tobias, but it was deeper than that. I wasn't honest with myself about what I wanted, what I feared, what I was running from. I'd been so afraid of losing Julian's love that I sabotaged it, chasing a ghost because it felt safer than the real thing. You can't love someone fully if you're not whole, my therapist said, and it hit me like a brick. I wasn't whole when I met Julian. I was a patchwork of old wounds and bad habits, and I'd let them bleed into our life. Realizing that didn't fix anything, but it gave me a place to start. I started rebuilding, piece by piece. I got a new job at a bookstore, surrounding myself with the stories I'd always loved. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest work, and it kept me grounded. I moved to a smaller apartment, one that didn't echo with memories of Julian. I'd walk home in the evenings, the city lights soft against the dusk, and feel a quiet kind of peace. Not happiness, not yet, but something close. A sense that I was finally moving forward, not just spinning in circles. I'd think about Julian, wonder where he was, if he was okay. I hoped he was happy, wherever he'd landed. He deserved that more than I ever did. I learned things, hard things about love and choices. Love isn't just a feeling, it's a decision you make every day. I chose wrong, over and over, picking a fantasy over the man who was right in front of me. I paid for it, and I'll carry that regret forever. But I also learned I can't let it define me. I'm not that reckless girl anymore, not the one who sent late-night texts or blurted out words she didn't mean. I'm trying to be better for myself because I owe it to the life I've got left. I go to therapy, I read, I take long walks and let myself feel the pain instead of numbing it with wine or distractions. It's slow, messy work, but it's mine. Looking back, I see the cost of my mistakes. I had a man who loved me, a life that could have been enough, and I threw it away because I was too weak to let go of the past. I think about Julian's smile, the way he'd hum while making coffee, and it hurts, but it also reminds me to keep going. I don't know if I'll ever love like that again, but I know I'll never make the same mistakes. I've got scars now, ones I earned, and they're teaching me to be honest, to be brave, to choose better. Life's a bitter pill sometimes. You can have everything and still fuck it up, just because you're too stubborn to see what's real. I'm not asking for your pity. I don't deserve it. I'm just telling you this so you don't make the same mistake. Don't let your past drag you down. Don't chase ghosts when you've got something solid in your hands. The price is too damn high, and trust me, I'm paying it every day. But I'm also learning, growing, trying to be someone who'd make Julian proud, even if he's not here to see it. That's all I've got left, and for now, it's enough.